All right, so the next step after we have this vision is we need to turn each of the parts of the vision into a specific goal. What do you want? How much by when is the key. It's got to be measurable in time and space. So I don't want to lose weight, I want to weigh 185 pounds. Because lose weight is still a negative. You're trying to lose something you don't want as opposed to gaining something you do, called a specific weight or a specific, you know, I want to be able to run a marathon or run a 10K by this date and so forth. So it's very useful to put these down. And I just give you a couple examples. It says, I'd like to double my income. Comes, I will earn $300,000 by midnight, December 31st at 5 p.m. That's a real different kind of statement, much more specific. I'd like to become a millionaire. I will have a net worth of $5 million by midnight, December 31st, 2012 at 5 p.m. Notice I always put the time in there. Your unconscious wants to know when. And once you set that in, it starts to figure it out. The universe figures it out, and your unconscious are both working on it at the same time. I'd like to spend more time with my wife. Can become I will take 4-week-long vacations with my wife by October 30th. I'm going to lose weight and get fit. I will weigh 190 pounds and complete a 10K run by June 30th. So you get the idea. Now let's look at believe real quickly. So we've got ask. We've focused on that quite a bit. How do we specifically ask the universe for what we want? Number 2, believe you're going to get it. So let's take a look at that. Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. You're not allowed to have a desire if you didn't have the capacity to fulfill it. You plus the universe, okay? So if you want it, you have the ability. You may need to learn new skills. You may need to hook up with some people, create some teams. You may need to develop some new capacities, create some affiliations that you don't have, go back and get a certificate you don't own at the moment, in terms of like a massage therapy license or a realtor's license, whatever it might be, but you have the capacity. Now, you've got to believe it's possible. You have to have the positive expectancy. Wayne Dyer said, you'll see it when you believe it. Most people go, I'll believe it when I see it. No, you'll see it when you believe it. It's backwards. In the Bible, it says, if you believe, anything is possible. Anything. You look at any religion, they're saying this. Now, here's my favorite story in the whole world that I've learned in the last couple of years from a chicken soup book that we're doing. Here's a guy, his name's Cliff Young, lives in Australia, and he wants to go run a race. He's always wanted to run a race. Finally, he shows up at this race. It's a 6.5 day, 875 kilometers, about 650-mile race. He's never run a marathon. He's never run a 10K. People are going, what, are you serious? Why are you here? There's no way you can possibly do this. He said, no, I know I'm going to do it. Well, what makes you think you can? He said, I'm a farmer, and I don't have a horse, don't have a tractor. What I do is I chase my cows around. Sometimes I have a sheepdog on the other side, and we have to run. Sometimes for 2 days. I don't get any sleep. I just have to run because there's a storm coming. Got to get them all in from the pastures. He said, I think I can do it. They thought he was crazy. All the other guys are wearing Nike, Puma, Asics, Reebok running gear. They start off the race, and they're really going fast. He shows up at the start of the race. He's wearing Oshkosh overalls, a white T-shirt, construction boots with galoshes on them in case it rained, he said, a baseball cap, and some sunglasses. Now, when everyone else took off, Cliff was running like this. They called it the Cliff Young Shuffle. But see, Cliff had an advantage that nobody knew about. In fact, Cliff didn't even know about it. The advantage was he'd never talked to an extreme racer. He'd never talked to a coach. He'd never read Runner's World magazine. He'd never read a book on running. He'd never talked to another elite runner. He didn't know that when you run a long distance race like this, you run for 18, sleep for 6, run for 18, sleep for 6, run for 18, sleep for 6. And he was so far behind everybody that when they went to sleep the first night, there was no one awake to tell him to stop. And he just kept running. He ran nonstop without sleep for 5.5 days and broke the record for that race by 12 hours. Don't you love it? Now, what does that tell us? It tells us that our beliefs about what's possible could be a limitation. Remember when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, within the next year 11 other people broke the 4-minute mile. It wasn't because there was some new vitamin that they had. It was because now they believed it was possible. Okay? We see people in our life that do things, we go, gosh, if he can do it, I can do it. That's why reading inspirational literature is useful. W. Clement Stone taught me, read biographies of people that did amazing things. Then you go, God, if they could do that, I could do that. Right? That's what the chicken soup books do. You read a story like, Matty Christensen with the no arms, and he goes and becomes a baseball player. Or Kyle Maynard that becomes the second best wrestler in the state of Georgia, has no arms and legs past the elbow knee. You go, wow, if they can do that, certainly I can do it. John Andrew Homer wrote, never tell anyone something cannot be done. God may have been waiting for centuries for somebody ignorant enough of the impossible to do that very thing. Right? I was reading a book the other day about Orville and Wilbur Wright, because my son's taking flying lessons right now, a 16-year-old learning to fly. And what Orville said, no, it was the other one, Wilbur said, he said, if we had believed what everyone told us was possible about air flight, we never would have flown. They said you couldn't be done, And so you can't let the reality, keep the dream. Go for it. All right. Now, I talked about in the movie The Secret the idea that if you're driving at night with the headlights on, you can see what? About 100 to 200 feet ahead of you, something like that. But you could drive from here to Chicago all night long and never have to see more than 100 to 200 feet ahead of you and still get there. And the same thing's true with your life. If you'll just start with the belief that you're going to get it and not know how, but after the first 100 feet you get to, then the next 100 feet show up. And you get to the end of the 100 feet, the next 100 feet are showing up. And so the vision is always over the horizon. If you walk to the horizon, what's on the other side? A horizon further on. But you don't know that till you get there. But if you just keep following it, eventually what? You get to where you want to go. And you don't know how until you start in the journey. I love it. It says, you don't have to know every turn in the road that you're going to take. Just get on the road and start driving. Harv Eker, who wrote The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, said, you don't have to get it perfect. You just need to get it going. I love that quote. Just get in the game. What was it? Steven Spielberg? How did he start? He just walked onto the lot and said, there was an empty room. He went in the room. He called up the guard. He said, hi, I'm Steven Spielberg. I'm in room so-and-so. Put that in your directory. Called the phone people. Said, I'm Steven Spielberg. I'm at phone number, whatever it is. And then he just walked around a lot. Everyone got used to seeing him there. And pretty soon people were saying, hey, I'm doing this project. Do you want to be involved? Right? He just got in the game. You want to be a movie star. Might not hurt just to get yourself out to California, where they're making most of the movies, or up to Toronto, where they're making more. Whatever it is. Get in the game. Read inspirational books and positive magazines. Watch positive TV. Always be inspiring yourself so you can expect that you're going to get the result. Here's a kid named Farrah Gray, 19 years old, when he wrote his first book called The Millionaire. He was a millionaire by the age of 14. He grew up in the ghetto of Chicago, never graduated high school. His mother was on welfare. And he said, I want to grow up and I want to be successful, but mostly I want to help my mother. So he started sanding down rocks and painting them, which he could get off empty lots in the ghetto, Cabrini Green, Chicago, if you've ever been there, it's one of the worst. And then he goes out to the edge where people have a little more money and he sells these for $1. Okay? Bookend, paperweight, doorstop. People got all excited. I want to help out a little kid, Most people, Girl Scouts selling cookies, will buy a box. We want to help out. Made $50 his first day. Got very revved up by that. Hired 4 other kids, 50 cents a rock. He'll pay them to make them. He goes, sells them. He's now making more rocks, got more salesmen. He's going out there doing a great thing. Pretty soon he says, I like this. This business thing's cool. So he says, what else can I do? Look for a need and fill it, they always say. And so he found out that old people, some are too old to go to the grocery store and carry their groceries back, so he'll go and buy their groceries for them. They get $1 tip. Pretty soon he had 6 kids in the neighborhood with wagons. They're all going and taking the groceries back and forth. They get $1, give him 50 cents, little entrepreneur. Finally, he decides that he wants to do something even bigger. He says, what do I know? I know food and I know kids. What do kids like to eat? Kids like sweets. I'll make a syrup. Get a grandmother, it's got a great syrup recipe, starts making the syrup, selling it at the local grocery stores and stuff. Pretty soon it gets so big they have to have a little place to make it. Pretty soon it gets so big and so popular in the Chicago area, he sells it to one of the bigger food companies, $1.5 million. He's 14 years old. Moves to Las Vegas, puts on 2 shows on the Strip, makes money from that, starts a newspaper out there, starts a real estate agency, starts selling real estate and developing real estate, investing in real estate, flipping real estate, and pretty soon he's worth tens of millions of dollars. And at the age of 19, he says it's all from the inside out, because according to his statistics, black kid in the ghetto, no education, should he be a multimillionaire? No, by most people they say, no, that's not possible. But see, it is. And when you read a story like that, you go, oh my God, if he can do that, what's holding me back? And it's just my beliefs. All right. So you got to take action. We talked about that. Last 6 letters of attraction, action. Last 6 letters of satisfaction, Action. Enough action produces satisfaction. Okay? So we want to have the action part of it. So, if we look at something I talked about earlier today, there's events in your life, you respond to those events, you get an outcome. And one of the responses we have is our thoughts. We talked about that. One of the responses we have is our pictures, okay? And the third is actions. All three of those are what determine our outcome. So 2 kinds of actions: obvious actions, inspired actions. Do the obvious things, whatever it is, write it down. Interview people that have already done what you want to do. If you attract people into your life, like me if you're an author, and you attract me into your life, and you're writing a book, ask me, how'd you do it? You know, how'd you get it published? How come you sold so many? Did you use a PR agent? How'd you get yourself on radio shows? You know, most people will tell you. They'll tell you the obvious things, but also act on the inspirations. That's where the big juice comes. Someone said to me, that story about the puppy, is that in a book anywhere? No. Ought to be. That story about the Girl Scouts, is that in a book anywhere? No. This went on for 6 weeks. The universe was knocking on my door, sending me inspiration. Put the stories in a book. Eventually I went, oh, I get it. I'm supposed to put the stories in a book. That became Chicken Soup for the Soul. We didn't have a title. How do you get the title? You go inside, ask for inspiration. Said to God, I need a title. I'm going to wait 30 minutes a day. I'm going to meditate. Give me a title. Monday, no title. Tuesday, no title. Wednesday, I see a hand that writes chicken soup on a chalkboard. I say to the hand, what the heck does chicken soup have to do with this book? And the hand said, when you were sick, your grandmother gave you chicken soup. I went, this is not a book about sick people. And a voice said, people's spirits are sick. I went, oh, chicken soup for the spirit. That doesn't sound right. Chicken soup for the soul. I got goosebumps. Called up Mark, he got goosebumps. Told my wife, she got goosebumps. Called her agent, he got goosebumps. Went to New York, talked to 21 publishers in 3 days, nobody got goosebumps. Our agent actually gave us the book back. We kept believing it, expecting it. Talked to over 144 publishers over the course of a year and a half. It was on the 3rd day of a book convention somewhere that we had gone to that a publisher from Florida said, we'll publish it. How many are you going to sell? 20,000. No, we're going to sell 1.5 million in a year and a half and 150,000 by Christmas. Do you ever share a dream and have someone laugh at you out loud? Publisher laughed. We sold 135,000 by Christmas, 1.3 million by a year and a half. That book went on to sell 10 million copies in English, 13 million around the world, and spawned a series with over 100 million books in print because we took an inspired action and never stopped. It was a divine obsession. And the people that are super successful, when those come on you, you ride the horse. And you push through the times, and you just say, okay, it's not easy right now, but it feels good, we believe in it, we're going to keep doing it. We positively expected it, just like Tony Robbins expected to get a van. And as a result of that, I'm standing here today. So that's what's possible, but you got to act on the inspirations. Here's a woman named Madeline Belletta. Madeline Belletta was sick, and her prayer group in her church, I think it was in New York City, started praying for her. And they were praying on a Wednesday night, and someone heard in their prayer, royal jelly. No one knew what royal jelly was. They all went to the supermarket and went to the Smucker's thing looking for royal jelly. There was no such thing. A couple weeks later, someone said, I found out about royal jelly. It's what the queen bee is given to eat. It's got all this incredible nutrition in it so she can lay all these eggs. And she said, well, where do you get some? Well, there wasn't much available. They went online. They found some in Europe, actually, at the time was the only place they were able to get it. And so they ordered some. She started taking it. She got better. She said, wow, I want to help other people get better. So she started this little company importing royal jelly, and she was putting ads out and doing all this stuff, and no one was buying it. She was telling everyone, going to doctors, going to the holistic health centers, hey, you ought to buy this and sell it to them. No one was interested. She was $400 away from being bankrupt when she went to her knees and she prayed. She said, I need help. How can I do this? And she heard a voice say, radio. And she went, radio? What the heck is that? Radio advertisement. She said, well, I've never done that. So she went to the local, she was a Christian, she went to a Christian radio station. She said, I'd like to take an ad out for this royal jelly. They thought it was a sex aid. They said, wait, royal jelly? What, you know, so we're not doing that. And she said, no, it's a food. He said, well, we don't do food on we just don't do food. I don't know why they didn't, but they didn't. And she said, no. And she explained it was a nutritional product and help people get better and so forth. And finally they said, okay, we'll do it. And she said, for $400, what can I get? So we can get about 6 ads for $400, but you're going to have to be the voice that makes it. We'll help you write it and record it because you're not going to be able to afford a voiceover person. So she does all that stuff. Gets 6 ads. She gets a call. Hi, my name's Pat Boone. You may know me. I'm a singer. My daughter Debbie is sick. And I'm wondering about this royal jelly. You think might help her? She said, I do. So, well, how many bottles do you think I need? And she named the number. He said, send them over. This is the address. He sent her a check. That was it. 6 months later, he calls and said, hi, this is Pat Boone. My daughter's totally well now. We attribute it to the royal jelly. If there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know. She says, I can think of something you can do for me. She said, this radio thing worked out pretty well. She said, do you have a studio you could go to and maybe record a couple ads for me? Because it was Pat Boone. They believe it more than me. You can talk about your daughter and everything. He said, yeah. They recorded that ad. They started playing it on Christian radio stations all across the country. And as a result of that, she's now a multi-millionaire. But she didn't give up. She asked for inspiration. She received the inspiration. She took action on it. And now she's got this whole company called Be Alive. I take 3 or 4 of their products. I discovered her through interviewing for my book. And I haven't been sick in like 3 years. You know, it's just amazing stuff. I'm not here to advertise it, but simply to say, when you get an inspiration, trust the inner guidance and act on it. She could have got radio and went, radio, that's stupid. I can't afford radio. And I wouldn't be talking about her today. All right.